development and progress of a society. I want you to think for a moment at 4 challenges that we have all been through in the last few years. The challenge of COVID, and they all happened, by the way, at the same proximate timeline. The challenge of COVID, the challenge of what is happening in our northern borders vis-a-vis China, the challenge of what happened in Afghanistan, the outcome and what implications it has, and now the challenges of the Ukraine conflict and its global repercussions and how that is impacting our lives. And I want you to think that the decisions we made, the courses of action that we chose, the outcomes that resulted, how much different your lives would have been and my life would have been had we done something else. So when I make this point that national security is something which we take as other people do it, it is done somewhere, the point I wish to drive home is it's real, it impacts you, as Ambassador Raghavan said, every day in a more globalized world, the external world impacts us more and more. And I want you to be very conscious of it. And where I am concerned as the External Affairs Minister, obviously the point which I will be making to you is how much diplomacy directly contributes to national security. Now the next question which I ask myself and which I know would be of interest to you is you will ask me, why Bangalore? Why have you come with this thought to Bangalore? And my most honest answer to you is one great virtue of Bangalore is it is out of Delhi. So that itself is a reason to come out. But that's not the only virtue. So I also, we want to, from on part of the government, to send out the message that all of you are stakeholders in national security and everything associated with it. So it should not, national security should not be a debate in Delhi, for Delhi, by Delhi. In the Ministry of External Affairs some years ago, we set up something called the States Division. Typically in bureaucracy, what happens, people say, okay, States Division means you must be dealing with correspondence involving, state governments. Yes, we do. But we wanted to send home the message that we actually want to democratize foreign policy, because when you actually are in different parts of India, and that is something, when I go out to different corners of India, I feel that the how you perceive the world also depends on which part of India you are in. Your priorities adjust to that accordingly. But the third reason why I wanted to come and speak in Bangalore and in Nias specifically was, I do think that Bangalore, specifically Bengaluru and Karnataka, it is today, no disrespect intended to anybody else, and I'm neither representing the state nor am I my origins lie in it. So it's a very objective statement. I think this is really one of the most progressive states in India, and certainly Bengaluru is one of the most, not only one of the most progressive cities, it actually to the rest of the world is like a poster child of Indian modernity. And I felt in such an arena, it is very important to understand what national security is about. And of course, you are all super connected, so, therefore you should really know what the external world means. So the second message I have to you is, when you think, first of all, don't make assumptions, be aware of national security. Number two, think of national security as a whole of a society, whole of a nation enterprise, because I think a lot of, our history and our future will depend really on how strong that whole of the nation feeling is. There's always a debate on this unity, diversity, balance. My sense of history is that where our sense of unity has been very strong, India has always done well, and certainly that is the direction this government would like to go. Now, I have also a particular word for students of international relations. Ambassador Raghavan and I discussed it briefly a little while ago. You know, I studied international relations too. And one of the challenges when you look at actual situations is you try to force fit what you study onto real life. That you look at real life situations and you say, yes, but this doesn't match what I was taught or what I was learned. So one advice as a practitioner of international studies, having studied it, is it's important for concepts really to grow with life, to learn from life, to learn from practice. And I'm sure your analysis of international relations would be more accurate, much richer, more nuanced if you actually took the complexities of life into your calculations. So let me come to this point. You know, why did I choose the word national security, the term national security, rather than foreign policy or diplomacy? Because my sense is, even today, many of us, when we think of national security, we have an imagery of, you know, a soldier guarding our borders, or maybe a policeman, you know, a black cat kind of policeman, or special forces dealing with the terrorists. So we associate it with a very old-fashioned, limited, hard security kind of thinking. Maybe, you know, as you grow, as you kind of think bigger, people sometimes look at nuclear issues and say, okay, that is national security. But again, I want you to reflect on national security through the lens of those four challenges, the challenges which have happened in the last 2 years, in the time since I was last in NIAS. And think of what the national security implications of those are. Let's take COVID, okay? We were able to produce made in India vaccines in a large way. We were even able to produce an invented in India vaccine, which, by the way, I had in my arm, as did the Prime Minister. We were able to produce, we were not just able to make it in India and invent it in India, we were also able to inject it in India, because let me tell you, a lot of countries struggled actually with the process of vaccinating the people. So we were able to get a kind of vaccination drive done in a very, very successful way. So I just think for a moment, what would have happened if this was not the case? Had our ability to produce vaccines not been as good as it was? If our turn in the queue, so to speak, came later, which by the way has happened to many countries, what would have been the consequences for our societal fabric and therefore for our national security? Had we not been able to produce the outcomes that we did during the time of COVID, I want you to reflect on it. But before we even got to vaccination, we saw another aspect of national security. You know, in a way, for 2020 and 2021, I can say, yes, I was the Minister of External Affairs, but I was also, like some of my other colleagues who were in a COVID group, we were all also ministers of COVID affairs, that a lot of our time went in contributing to a larger national purpose under the Prime Minister's leadership on how do we respond to the COVID. And we scrambled in 2020. You know, we were looking for masks, we were looking for PPEs, we were looking for ventilators, we were looking for medicines, we were looking for APIs to make the medicines. And you asked yourself, is it not dangerous for our national security that we are so dependent on external sources, and that this belief that there is a just-in-time economy which will deliver smoothly every day, 24/7, 365 days a year, the COVID told us that was not the case. So when we think national security, certainly from the COVID, no question, we now think health security. But I now ask you, should we not be thinking manufacturing security? And in a sense connected with it, employment security. And have we not slid into a kind of a comfort level where we feel we will get things from the world, we will fit it in our top lines, we will post our 8% growth, companies will do well, but actually we are not developing the deep strengths, we are not developing the supply chains within the country, so that in a moment of crisis, we were not left as vulnerable as we were in those years.